Everyone is familiar with the public face of global wealth. You can instantly picture Elon Musk in the midst of a chaotic boardroom drama, Jeff Bezos lounging on a multi-million-dollar superyacht, Mark Zuckerberg enduring a cringe-worthy octagon showdown, or Warren Buffett predictably tucking into the same McDonald's breakfast he's favored for 3 decades. Their lives are televised, their personal quirks are memes, and their every waking move is scrutinized by the world's media. But I challenge you to name just 5 Chinese billionaires. Go ahead, take your time. I'll wait. I already know where your mind is heading. You'll likely stumble over the name Jack Ma. Once the undisputed poster boy for Chinese entrepreneurial success, a man who reigned as the richest person in Asia, he has since faded from the limelight, failing to even crack the top 5 in his own homeland. Here is the inconvenient truth that Western media outlets rarely delve into. In March 2026, a historical shift occurred. China officially surpassed the United States, cementing its position as the global capital for extreme wealth, boasting 1,110 billionaires compared to the U.S.'s 1,000. Among these titans, one made a colossal fortune selling simple bottled water, while another architected the very algorithm that has millions of children globally scrolling in a trance-like state. These individuals oversee empires that influence billions of lives, yet to the Western observer, they are invisible. You could place them in a police lineup, and most people outside of China wouldn't have the slightest clue who they were looking at. In this video, you will know their names and the singular, rigid pattern that binds their ascent. The reality is that wealth in China follows a logic fundamentally alien to the West. It is not just a business strategy, it is a meticulously crafted system. I am going to peel back the layers of this system for you. The average American can name more Kardashians than Chinese billionaires. Is that simple ignorance? Perhaps. But more accurately, it is a blind spot engineered into how global wealth is reported. When American billionaires build something, the world watches. They appear on high-profile podcasts, purchase Major League sports franchises, tweet cryptic musings about cryptocurrency at 3 a.m., and grace the covers of magazines. In the West, wealth is a performative act. The richer you become, the louder the megaphone you hold. In contrast, China produced more new billionaires than any other nation last year, yet almost none of them gave a single interview. No global press tours, no keynotes at the World Economic Forum in Davos, no high-stakes spats with regulators played out on X. Shenzhen alone now hosts more billionaires than London, yet most of them operate with a ghostly efficiency, acting as if they'd prefer you didn't know they existed at all. This isn't an accident. In China, visibility is a liability. The pioneers of the wealth rankings learned that lesson the hard way, watching their predecessors fall from grace. Consequently, they learned to build in the shadows. They stayed off camera and let their balance sheets do the talking. This leads us to the man at the pinnacle of the list, Zhong Shanshan, whose net worth exceeds $70 billion. The richest man in China didn't build a software platform, he sells water. He is the founder of Nongfu Spring, the dominant bottled water brand in China. If you have stepped foot in mainland China, you have seen that iconic red cap. It is omnipresent in every convenience store from Shanghai to the remote countryside. Chinese media refers to him as the lone wolf. He has no known business allies, avoids every major conference, and even those within his inner circle remain guarded about his personal life. He retains 84% control of his company, a level of ownership that is almost unheard of in global corporate architecture. His backstory reads like a tragic, gritty novel. He dropped out of school during the tumultuous Cultural Revolution, toiled in construction, failed his university entrance exams, and eventually talked his way into a workers' college. He spent years as a reporter, traveling across rural China and interviewing the very entrepreneurs he would eventually eclipse. He then tried his hand at business, mushroom farming on the Hainan Islands, followed by shrimp trading. Both endeavors collapsed. He even sold drinks for a rival brand, Waha. He was 42 years old when he finally launched Nongfu Spring. His inaugural masterstroke was a gamble that seemed reckless at the time. He pulled all his purified water from shelves and repositioned the brand entirely around natural mineral water. At that moment, every other company in the country was peddling artificial purified water. He bet that Chinese consumers would pay a premium for water that felt closer to nature. The industry expected his failure. What they didn't foresee was that China was embarking on the largest consumer spending boom in human history. Hundreds of millions were ascending into the middle class, transitioning from tap water to packaged drinks, and developing a deep appetite for premium products. Zhong wasn't merely selling water, he was surfing a massive socio-economic wave that the state had been priming for years through relentless urbanization and rising wages. 24 years later, the IPO landed. The market finally put a price on what he had been building in silence for 2 decades. Overnight, a man who sells half-liter bottles of water for 50 cents became wealthier than any billionaire in Europe. Outside of China, almost nobody noticed. Zhong Shanshan saw where China's domestic economy was heading and laid his foundation before the rest of the market caught on. That is the pattern. The next generation of billionaires did exactly the same, but the catalyst wasn't consumer spending, it was Washington's decision to decouple China from American technology. In late 2020, Zhong Jianzhong left his role. This wouldn't be notable, except for where he had spent the previous 15 years, as Nvidia's global VP for China. He had overseen the company's expansion, forged relationships with every major client, and understood the architecture of Nvidia's chips as well as anyone outside the engineering labs. Then, US export controls tightened. Washington restricted the sale of advanced GPUs, which are the backbone of AI training. Beijing's response was swift and absolute. Semiconductor self-sufficiency became a national security priority. State capital flooded into domestic chip initiatives, and government procurement mandates started requiring locally sourced components. The door was closing on American chips, and a massive, state-backed market was opening on the other side. Zhong watched this transition in real time. Instead of staying on the American side of the divide, he walked through the threshold. He founded MoreThreads in 2020. 5 years later, the company is valued at $45 billion. Despite being placed on the US Entity List in 2023, cutting off his access to American manufacturing tools, Zhong remains unbothered. His primary clients are the Chinese military and state agencies, which are now legally obligated to source 100% of their chips domestically. The sanctions didn't stifle his business, they guaranteed his customer base. He didn't make this move alone. 3 other Nvidia China veterans co-founded the company with him. This pattern repeats across the industry. Chen Weiliang spent 14 years at AMD, rising to senior director before quietly departing. He held no dramatic press conferences. Instead, he met with former colleagues in cafes, sketched out a strategy, and recruited them one by one for his new company, MetaX. The strategy was binary: build a Chinese GPU that could match AMD's capabilities without the need for AMD. MetaX went public in late 2025, and on its first day of trading, the stock surged 692%. Chen is now worth over $4 billion. These individuals are not startup kids playing in a garage, they are senior executives who spent a decade absorbing the secrets of the most powerful American tech giants, only to take that intellectual capital home. But we have yet to discuss the true heavyweights. If the defectors rode the wave of sanctions, the architects at the very top of China's wealth rankings rode something even larger. Zhong Yiming, worth approximately $65 billion, founded ByteDance in 2012, the parent company of TikTok, Douyin, and Tushiro. Over 1 billion people interact with his products every month. Yet, he resigned from his own company at 38, relocated to Singapore, and effectively vanished from the public eye for 4 years. There is a strong chance you have never even seen a clear photograph of him. Born in Longyang, Fujian Province, to civil servant parents, he studied software engineering at Nankai University. His career began at a travel search startup, followed by a stint at Microsoft, a job he reportedly loathed because the rigid corporate bureaucracy stifled his creativity. He quit, joined a failing startup, and launched his own real estate search venture that ultimately went nowhere. ByteDance was born from frustration. In 2012, China's mobile landscape was cluttered with subpar apps, and the search giant Baidu was so aggressively stuffing ads into results that the user experience had become toxic. Zhong's thesis was simple: skip the search entirely and push content to users via AI recommendations. Most venture capitalists laughed him out of the room. The initial funding came from a niche trading firm that nobody in Silicon Valley had ever heard of. His timing was impeccable. China was in the middle of the most rapid smartphone adoption in human history. The state had spent years constructing mobile infrastructure, pushing 4G into the furthest provinces, and setting the stage for 1 billion people to go online. Zhong didn't build the wave, he spotted it forming before the surf grew crowded. Within 2 years, Tushio had 13 million daily users. Within 5, TikTok was fundamentally altering how the global generation consumes media. By 2024, revenue reached $155 billion. Then, Zhong walked away. In 2021, he published a refreshingly honest letter explaining that he was stepping down as CEO, citing his own limitations as a manager and a preference for literature and music over board meetings. He only surfaced once, in late 2025, at a Shanghai university to launch a talent incubator for math and AI. It was his first public appearance in 4 years. The man who built the most downloaded app on Earth could be the most famous human on the planet, but he chose to become a phantom. This pattern holds across the entire hierarchy. Pony Ma, the force behind Tencent, is worth over $53 billion and commands what is arguably the most formidable tech ecosystem in Asia. Tencent owns WeChat, the digital lifeblood of China, and is the world's largest gaming investor, with stakes in Epic Games, Riot, and Supercell. Its reach extends into cloud computing, AI, fintech, and streaming. Pony Ma co-founded the company in 1998 with classmates. He is notoriously elusive, he rarely speaks to Western media, and journalists describe him as almost reclusive. Even veteran China watchers observe that the most notable thing about Pony Ma is the complete absence of anything to report. He simply runs his company. 3 of China's 5 wealthiest individuals possess a combined fortune north of $190 billion. Yet, between them, they have made fewer public appearances in the last 5 years than Elon Musk makes in an average week. In the West, billionaires fight for your eyeballs. In China, the wealthiest citizens are actively fighting to avoid them. Every single one of these empires was built within sectors explicitly designated as national priorities by Beijing: AI, semiconductors, and foundational models. These billionaires benefited from a symbiotic system, state capital flowing into their sectors, procurement mandates that guarantee demand, and national infrastructure built to support them. The next shopping list is already out. The 15th Five-Year Plan, published this March, covers 2026 to 2030 and maps out where the next trillion-dollar markets will be forged. 6 sectors are the new national pillars: integrated circuits, intelligent robotics, the low-altitude economy, biotech, advanced materials, and aerospace. These sectors are projected to balloon from 6 trillion to over 10 trillion yuan by 2030, with AI-related industries expected to hit another 10 trillion. This is the forge where the next wave of Chinese billionaires will be tempered. Those who position themselves in Asia to gain access to these supply chains and technologies early will possess a strategic advantage that will become increasingly impossible to replicate. We live in an era where silence is not a sign of weakness, but a suit of armor. Billionaires like Zhong Shanshan and Zhong Yiming have demonstrated that you needn't wield a megaphone to pivot an entire economy. You simply need to ride the crest of the wave known as national intent. The reality is that while we were preoccupied with Elon Musk's theatrical tweets or the glitzy live streams of the American tech elite, the global order shifted quietly this past March 2026. China has not only eclipsed the United States in its billionaire count, it has forged an entirely new definition of influence, the power of invisibility. The 15th five-year plan has been unveiled. Sectors such as intelligent robotics, the low-altitude economy, and semiconductors are primed for the next titans to take flight. And I can assure you of one thing, those destined to dominate the rich lists of 2030 are likely, at this very moment, ensconced in nondescript offices in Shenzhen or Hangzhou, working 16-hour days while scrupulously avoiding the camera's lens. It is high time we ceased measuring economic prowess by media saturation. In this new global landscape, the victor is not the one with the loudest voice, but the one capable of constructing an empire without leaving a single footprint in the snow. You may not recognize their faces or know their names, but every time you launch an app, open a bottle of water, or use a piece of technology, you are interacting with the legacy of these phantoms. That is not a failure of our awareness, it is the ultimate proof of their triumph. What is your take on the stealth strategy of China's billionaires? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive analyses on this channel.